Hi there, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Winning Ways. James and Paul are both away at sales in Australia. We'll catch up with them in tonight's edition of Winning Ways a little bit later on. Joining me in the studio today, Andrew Harrison. Andrew, welcome.
Thanks, Graham.
Nice to have you in the studio. Pretty full program. We're going to cover our usual agenda of 3 to follow, blast from the past, plum of the week. As I said, we're going to be chatting to James and Paul from Australia a little later on in the show, and we'll round off tonight's program with a very special interview with Alan Greef. Greef, of course, is a name that is synonymous with racing in Port Elizabeth, and the Winning Ways team caught up with Alan at this year's National Yelling Sales. So you've got that to look forward to at the end of the show. But as always, we kick off with our 3 to follow. And we start off, Andrew, with Morpheus. We go to Scottsville, race 3. It was an MR79 handicap over 1,600 metres, won most impressively by the Mike de Kock trained 2-year-old Forrest Waltz, who came up the outside. Morpheus from the Dennis Dry stable, Andrew, heavily backed in from 9 to 2 to 5 to 2, beat everything else quite comfortably, and I think he should recoup.
I think he will. I think he's a nice horse. I think he's a decent horse. And the word was out that he was the one to beat on Saturday.
I definitely think he's on the upgrade. So let's have another look at the race over 1,600 metres. It was the third race, the first leg of the place accumulator at Scottsville on Saturday. Well, there they jump out of the 1,600 metre starting gates, and Morpheus was always in the vanguard.
He was always well placed, and from one draw he had a plump position, and I see Sean just kept him going. Not to lose position, and yeah, it's in the Knut Haug silks.
Yeah, unlike the winner, Forrest Waltz, he took the shortest way home. Incidentally, Forrest Waltz, who, as I said, is a very impressive 2-year-old, is in the Chris Gerber colours, in the blue and yellow towards the rear of the field. Warren Kennedy back in the saddle after a month out of action, and he came right up on the outside, and for much of the race you couldn't even see him. Thank goodness that Sheldon had his eyes on him, because it looked all over for Morpheus, who travels at this stage, Andrew, comfortably along the rail in third spot.
No, he's going very well there. And what was surprising, and I think it sort of sowed a couple of seeds of doubt in the minds of the trainers in the big races, that Forrest Waltz came right down the outside and won very easily.
Morpheus, obviously a son of Silvano, so he's certainly got the breeding on his side, and he won his maiden by 3 3/4 lengths, beating April Rock. And you can see down the inside there that Sean Cormack actually wastes no time in taking the race by the scruff of its neck. Already Forrest Waltz, the eventual winner, has drifted to the outside and is out of picture. Is going to deliver a great blow up the outside, but Morpheus does finish well clear of the balance.
I think Morpheus is probably looking for a little bit more ground. He moved up nicely, and then he was a little bit one pace towards the end.
He might have also done better if he had the other horse closer to him, but as you can see, Forrest Waltz just wins it
possibly
extremely well.
Looking for a bit of company. It definitely helps if you've got something to chase.
Down but not out, and we think that Morpheus will live to fight another day. Our second choice also comes from Scottsville. It comes from one of the features. It comes from the Tochasan Medallion. We will, of course, discuss the winner, Guinness, a little later on in the show, but we're going to focus on the horse that ran third, Andrew, Harry's Son. Interesting runner, because on Saturday morning during the Understarters Orders show, Paul Lafferty made no secret of the fact that he rates this horse the best 2-year-old that he's ever trained.
Well, the way he ran, Graham, I think he could be right, because he was way out of his ground early, and he kicked on really well towards the end.
Yeah, Paul made the point that 1,200 metres was definitely going to be on the sharp side, that he's looking for more ground. He's got an interesting pedigrees by Heradison. I'm not sure that we've had any other progeny of Heradison in the country, but you'll see him kicking on really well. He takes the third spot. Let's go to the race. He's finishing as well as anything. There he is, jumping out of gate 4 and already dropping in off the pace.
Well, he took a couple of bumps at the start there, and I think he being pushed along by, I think Stuart Randolph rode him, didn't he?
Stuart rode him, yes.
And he took a couple of bumps at the start there. Now he's got into stride, but most of the field is already away.
Yeah, well, obviously, Guinness is in front at this stage, going to the 4 early on. Harry Lime is prominent towards the outside. And interestingly, Harry Lime had beaten Harry's Son quite comfortably last time out, but Harry's Son reverses the order today. But we've got to focus on him because Harry's Son is obviously in the Roy Moodley colours and he's being scrubbed away, quite a way off the pace still at this stage, down towards the inside.
It was being scrubbed away at the 800 metre mark to try and go with them. And then he just keeps finding, and there's horses crossing in front of him. The steward looking for, I think he's very green.
Now he comes out.
Green, yeah.
Now he finds a gap. Watch how Harry's Son finishes this race off. And the fact that he got up to run as close as he did, in fact, running into third spot, was a very, very creditable performance. And with the juveniles now set to go over 1,400 and even 1,600 metres, I think that this chap has put his hands up for possible Grade 1 success later on in the season.
Yeah, that 1,600 metre race on Gold Cup Day, I think that will suit him down to the ground. But look, just watching that race, I think probably needs a little bit further than a mile.
Yeah, in time probably does. But a very interesting and exciting runner that Paul Lafferty has on his hands, racing in the colours of Mr. Roy Moodley. Roy owns it in partnership with Phil Giorgio, Mr. and Mrs. DJ Steyn, Bill Rowe and Miss A. Bill Rowe. So quite a large partnership there. As we go to our third choice of our 3 to follow for this week. And this one comes from Turfentine. It was Sunday. It was the 25th of May. And first race, we saw a very impressive performance from Bang Sue, a filly with an interesting name, by Fort Wood out of Ratbarana. Now, Ratbarana herself won the Alan Robertson Fillies Championship, so she's bred in the purple. But the one we've selected for you to follow was the unfancied Rascality, who runs on very powerfully for the Gavin van Sale stable under Craig Zaki, paying R9 a drum, Andrew, so there was a clear indication she wasn't fancied. Kahal filly looks as if she could go in next time.
The way she ran there, she ran very nicely, and so R9 a drum, it's not often that you can find something like that. So, yeah, and I know because Dante's Legacy, Gavin didn't fancy that when he ran first time at Scrussel. That's a really nice looking horse, that, and so, yeah, he obviously doesn't prime them first time out.
So let's have a look at the race. It was over 1,450 metres on the inside track at Turfteen, jumping from a wide draw. Jumps a little headily and is restrained in the early stages. As you can see, head in the sky, perhaps showing signs of his inexperience. And Craig Zaki, who's riding extremely well down there in Gauteng, and also when he comes up and pays us a visit up here, very promising apprentice who's now a non-claimer. Finds a position on the rail, Craig, so he actually does his job really nicely to get her settled on her debut.
No, he does, especially the way she jumped, pulling like that. And it's difficult when the horse has got a head up in the air and to try and position it.
Another one to watch here is the Michael Azzi trained Red Star, because that's an elusive fort that was always up handy in second. Nice looking sort. But the winner, Bang Sue, is another one for the notebook because bred in the purple, as we said, by Fort Wood out of Ratbarana, racing in the Mary Slack Silks. At this stage, you can see Rascality in the Team G Racing Silks, tucked away about 6-7 lengths from the leader, is going to finish off the race better than anything bar the winner as it gets hooked out towards the centre for a run. But Bang Sue's on her way. Watch how Rascality, Andrew, finishes off the race.
She comes on nicely and after being a little bit out of her ground there, a bit green on the turn, and she kicks on. And the winner, I see, it still races in the Wilgebos colours, so they obviously think a lot of her.
Yeah, well, I think she's obviously got a wonderfully exciting career ahead of her, not to mention a paddock career. But yeah, you see Rascality, as I say, paying more than R9 a drum, finishing off the race really well, and I think shouldn't be racing in the maiden stakes for very, very much longer. Well, those were our 3 to follow. So next up, we're going to go to our blast from the past. And our blast from the past is from the recent past. That's the Daily News 2013, which was last year's edition of the Daily News, which of course produced that humdinger of a finish between Vercingetorix and Cape Town Noir.
Cocktail has gone in. The rider wears the red cap from a good draw. Gavin Larina, Mike Decog. Daily News 2000 Grade 1. They're set. Runners dispatched from the 2,000 metre marker. And let's give them a chance to settle down. Love Struck's right there. Corridor has a good position. Sylvana's Jet is well placed. Rock Cocktails with the red cap and War Horses near the rail. Going around them now, Yorkers overcome the draw. Yorkers there. Abercrombie has a good position. They're racing only about 3-4 lengths off the leader. They're followed by Cape Town Noir. Vercingetorix is beautifully placed. Wild One's caught wide out. They're followed further back in the field now as we drop out to Patriotic Rebel. And Talina's one of the trailers with Wild One. Rock Cocktail 1 length, Yorker second, Abercrombie in the blue third. Warhorse at the rail for Vercingetorix is only 5 lengths off the leader. They're followed by Sylvana's Jet and then comes Love Struck. Cape Town Noir, perfect position near the rail. That's about 6 lengths off the leader. On the outside of that, Wiley Hall, Jettiano, then comes American Storm, no worries. Patriotic Rebel, then comes Talina and Wild One. They're about 10-11 lengths off the leader in the Daily News. Rock Cocktail the leader. Abercrombie and Yorker, they share second and third. Then Sylvana's Jed. Vercingetorix is only 5 lengths off the leader. Then Warhorse. Cape Town Noir waits at the rail. Love Struck. Wiley Hall. Jettiano. Wild One's on the move. Then comes No Worries. 10 lengths to make up. Talina's coming around horses. Then comes American Storm. Homeward bound, it's compact. Rock Cocktail goes. Yorker's down the inside second. Then Abercrombie. They're followed towards the outside. Vercingetorix. Love Struck. Corridor. Down the inside. Wars tries to run on. Vercingetorix coming home powerfully now. Rock Cocktail on the inside. Vercingetorix hit the front at the 200. Wiley all on the outside. No Worries running on. Cape Town Noir comes home well. Vercingetorix holding on and won it. Cape Town Noir second or No Worries. And behind that, Wiley Hall, then Rock Cocktail.
Well, that race was certainly, Andrew, one of the highlights of the 2013 champion season. An absolute blanket finish. Vercingetorix getting home a short head from No Worries, who finished back in second. Then short heads away to Cape Town Noir and Wiley Hall. And we all know that this form has been flattered on the international stage by Vercingetorix. Perhaps a little disappointing that No Worries and Wiley Hall have been struggling to find the winner's enclosure at the very highest level since.
It happens, Graham. I think sometimes you find they've had sort of injuries and niggles and they don't quite come back to their best form. Whereas I thought Anthony Del Peche rode a particularly good race. He knew Cape Town Noir was the big danger, and he kept Carl pinned against the fence all the way around for the first run on him.
Well, since then, of course, Cape Town Noir has kind of confirmed the opinion that he's probably at his best over 1,600 metres, winning the Queen's Plate, being beaten a short head in the Horse Chestnut Stakes by Yorker over 1,600 metres. Are you still of the view, given that, of course, he's still very much in the running for the 2014 Vodacom Durban July, are you in the camp that says Cape Town Noir is still at his best over a mile?
I think he's a miler. I don't think he'll see out the July. I think it's been proven in the Derby. He ran a good race, but he would run out of it. So I think a mile, it's a bit like White Line Fever. I don't think he gets more than a mile either.
Well, as we said, the Daily News was certainly one of the highlights of last season's champion season. And it promised us to be again this coming Saturday, the 31st of May. I can confirm that Legislators accepted, ridden by Farie. Louis the King, Andrew, is accepted to be ridden by Kevin Shea. Captain America is accepted to be ridden by Glenn Hatt. And also, very interestingly, Rake's Chestnut is among the acceptors. These weren't finalised by the time we were recording the show, but Anton Marcus has accepted the ride on Rake's Chestnut, who was thrown in the deep end recently as a one-time winner in the top division, and he ran second. So it all augurs well for a very exciting 2014 renewal of the Daily News for 2 million rand.
I think, Graham, this year's Daily News is a particularly strong field. Legislate won the KRA Guineas very, very easily. I think Captain America, I'm also of the opinion maybe not quite up to it over that distance. We'll see how good Louis the King is. You know, he's only bumped horses up in Joburg.
Well, it's a match, isn't it, between the Western Cape form line and the Gauteng form line?
Well, that's right, but that's what champion season's all about. We get all the best horses down here, and then we sort out the wheat from the chaff.
Obviously, Legislate representing the Justin Snaith stable, who has designs on the championship. Louis the King and Rake's Chestnut, both trained by Jeff Woodruff, and he is at this stage Justin Snaith's closest rival. So there's more than just the outcome of the Daily News on the line here. Interestingly, in the Lavington, I can also confirm that Along Came Polly is an acceptable with Kamalo up in the fast lane to represent Justin Snaith with Richard Faree in the saddle. The SA Fillies Classic winner Athena, trained by Joey Soma, to be ridden by Kevin Shea as an acceptor, and Lana Falcon from Mike Bassyard with Grant Van Niekerk up. So 2 cracking races supported by the Lonsdale.
No, that will definitely be it's a race meeting you'd have to go to. If you've got anything to do with horse racing and you like horse racing, you have to be there.
Obviously, looking back at the 2013 running of the Daily News, a very different looking gravel to what it looks like now, where the false rail was on the far side of that rail is now all polytrack. And Andrew, talking about the polytrack, the first official race meeting at Gravel on the 11th of June, followed very quickly under lights by the 13th, with the exception being the Post Merchants that night. That'll be run on the turf. And we are planning to run 3 trial races on the polytrack on Tuesday the 3rd. That's Tuesday next week. The 3 races going off at around 5, 5:30 and 6 under the lights. All will be welcome to attend. So that's the plan, to have our 3 trial races, at least 3 trial races. If there's demand, a 4th will be staged over 1,200, 1,400 metres and 1,600 metres. And we are going to be taking entries for those 3 trial races. We'll pay some appearance money to the owners, the trainers, and of course the jockeys will get their normal riding fee. So all is happening at Gravel, and we look forward to that. Heading the program this week, of course, the 2 million rand Daily News 2000. Legislate versus Louis the King versus Captain America versus Rakes Chestnut versus, of course, all of the others. An upset can never be ruled out. Time now to turn our attention to the Plum of the Week.
Captain Haddock moved up on the stand side. Hunting Horns now coming home nicely between runners. Acceleros along the inside. Big Cat still there. Stolen Destiny. Hunting Horn runs on. Big Cat. Capricorn Ridge is also getting going towards the inside, and Night Trip's running on nicely. Night Trip is coming home powerfully. Look at Night Trip unwinding. Night Trip won it. Second position, perhaps Capricorn Ridge in a photo. Accelero. Big Cat behind these, but it's a big victory for Night.
Well, the connections of Night Trip, Andrew might have thought Christmas came early, because all the form in the world, beaten by King of Pain, a short head in the Magnum Mile, did miss its prep run for this race, and they've got bigger things in mind. But opened 6-1. That was the best price laid, and started a very firm 3-1. So there was lots of shopping to be had.
Yes, it was. But, you know, with all due respect, Mike Bass's horses in KZN have been running a little bit flat of late, but they seem to have picked up nicely now. So.
Well, there was no shortage of confidence. Everybody on the track at Scottsville on Saturday, from the time I arrived, which was pretty early, Night Trip. I must be honest, I was in the Accelero camp, but everybody was telling me that Night Trip is just about as home and hosed in the first leg of the carryover pick 6. In fact, for many, he was a confident bank. And as I say, that doesn't often happen when a horse is priced up at 6-1. But his odds were halved by race time from 6-1 into 3-1. So there was certainly good value for the fans of Night Trip. Now let's turn our attention to current affairs.
Want to get the best odds on horse racing and sporting events? For every bet requested, we review all the bookmakers and select the one with the best odds. As a result, you always get the best odds. Interbet offers tote betting, fixed odd multiples, and betting with your mobile phone. To get started, all you need to do is register by filling in your personal information. Log into your account and start wagering.
Welcome back. As we said, under current affairs, we are going to be touching base with Paul and James a little later on. They're visiting Australia, attending various sales, broodmare sales, weaning sales, and so on, and doing a bit of shopping to improve the gene pool here in South Africa. And if you needed an advertisement for Pure Class, then Andrew, the Alan Robertson Championship with Rock of Gibraltar represented by the first and second across the line. That was fantastic. So let's go back to the 2014 Alan Robertson Fillies Championship run at Scottsville over 1,200 metres on Saturday.
Rossier moves in. Flying Loot. Area. Alan Robertson Championship, Grade 1. All set and they sent on their journey. Balkan got a beautiful break towards the centre of the course, an early leader. 7 Whispers is right there, and Cotton Candy's got a lot of speed. Flame Cat's also looking to tack over towards the centre inside. Flying Loot's towards the outside area. Rich Girl just off the bridle, 2.5 lengths off them. Alboran C toward the inside. Further back, Chorosol gets a reminder of 2, 5, 6 lengths off them. Russia towards the outside, Miss Argentina. Over towards the inside is One Fine Day. Balkan now comes forward at the 400 metre marker, takes on Cotton Candy. Flame Cat looks to put them under pressure. Rich Girl now looks to move in towards the outside. Alboran C's looking for a way through, coming to the 300 metre marker. Balkan, Rich Girl looks to come forward to the outside. Flame Cat still right there. Alboran C needs a split. Rich Girl hits the front with 200 to go, but Alboran C's all over her now. Alboran C and Rich Girl, but Alboran C steps into the ring and Grade 1 success. Alboran C won it. Rich Girl second. One Fine Day. Russia behind these runners. It was just a matter of Alboran C finding the gap, and she'll come through fleet-footedly.
Well, there was a lot of class in this race, Andrew. Interestingly, it was a clash. It was billed as the clash between Australia and South Africa. After the scratching of Majmu, there were 15 runners left. 5 were from Down Under, 10 from South Africa. But this time round, it was the team from Down Under that proved superior. And as I said, no substitute for class. The winner, Alboran C by Rock of Gibraltar. The runner-up, Rich Girl by Rock of Gibraltar. And fantastic victory for the winner.
It was a fantastic victory for the winner, and I thought Muzi rode a great race. He was sort of hunting for that space on the inside. Gavin Lorena wasn't letting him out. He was trying to keep Sean Cormack tight up against the rail. But when Gavin came under pressure, he rolled out and Muzi went through. He said to me afterwards, he said, I had to wait. He said, if I'd made my run and had to check, I would have been stuffed.
I think this is, I stand corrected, but I think this is Muzi's only his second ever Grade 1 victory. Is it his third Grade 1 victory? So well done for correcting me. So as many winners as he's ridden, he hasn't ridden too many at the very highest level. So this would have delighted him to have had the opportunity. Obviously, Majmu was one of 4 runners accepted for the race by the Mark de Kock stable, but that had to be scratched, which was disappointing. But it just goes to show, even though Alboran C was not fancied in the market, because Tap Away, quite frankly, had not really come out to flatter the form. Rich Girl was a confident choice in the market. But both of these fillies, I would imagine, can pay to follow.
I'm sure they'd pay to follow. And I think Alboran C will probably do a little bit 1,600 metres.
So we're likely to see both of them out again over 1,400 metres on Vodacom Durban July Day and the Grade 1 race on that afternoon. But now let's focus on the second of the Grade 1 features run at Scottsville in the jackpot of Grade 1 sprints. It was a Tsogasan Medallion, a race which arguably should be renamed the Dennis Dryers Stakes. But let's have a look.
Number 2 into the gates. Take out number 2 Antwerp. Balance of the field sent on their journey. Little bit of jostling towards the inside. Carry On Alice is about 2.5, 3 lengths off the first call. Guinness on the money and running the first one to respond. Orange Silks of Beckerdorf's right there. Isfahan to the inside. Banadier's just off the bridle, 2 lengths off them to stay in touch. Precursor to the outside, and Harry Lime, red sleeves and cap. Belong to Me on the extreme outside. Then Punk Rocker, 3, 4 lengths off the call. Angel towards the outside. Captain Clippers further back in the running. Harry's Son further back. Then Dante's Legacy. Coming towards the 400 metre marker. Guinness the one to get to. Carry On Alice now applies her pressure in second. Harry Lime to the stand side. Beckerdorf's between them. Guinness as they come to the last 250. He's the one to beat, and Guinness goes for broke with 200 to go. The filly Carry On Alice flat to the boards in second, and Guinness now ridden to respond 3 parts of a length. Carry On Alice is now going to try and reel him in late on, but Guinness continues to go from Carry On Alice, who's coming home late. Guinness is crying for the line. Guinness all out and pulled it off. Carry On Alice second. Harry's Son, and behind these came Beckerdorf.
Well, the Dennis Dryers stable has won this race now 3 years in succession, Andrew, and 4 out of the last 5 runnings. That's quite some performance.
It's an outstanding record. As you said before the show, all you have to do is follow Dryer and Laird and you're home in Jerome here.
Yeah, because Laird's dominated the Golden Horse Sprint, having won that race 3 in a row, but more about that in a moment. This horse, Guinness, by Seventh Rock. Interesting. Seventh Rock himself won this race as a 2-year-old.
He's turning out to be a very good stallion. I had my doubts, but I must admit that he's put them all to bed now. He's certainly turning out some decent horses.
I do want to mention the breeder, Gary Jolliffe. Gary, I met many, many years ago in Zimbabwe. He's emigrated from Zimbabwe into South Africa. He came down and had to start virtually afresh, worked on a couple of stud farms. He's got this mare, Tinder Box, who's also the dam of November Rain, who had won its 9th race at Fairview on the Friday. And the following day, Tinderbox has a Grade 1 winner in the form of Guinness. I sold the full sister as auctioneer for Gary at the 2014 National Yearling Sales to November Rain for 200,000 Rand. I can't help thinking if the sale came now, that filly might have fetched quite a lot more. But Gary started Golden Touch breeding establishment. This is his first crop of 2-year-olds under the banner of Golden Touch, and his only 2 runners so far as 2-year-olds this season. Both won first time out, and Guinness, of course, a Grade 1 winner. Fantastic feat for Gary. Well done, Gary.
It's an unbelievable feat, because most times it takes you at least 10 years to get on the boards.
Absolutely. He certainly is a horseman par excellence, is Gary Jolliffe, and we'll follow his stud's progress with keen interest. But now back to the race. The filly, you thought a little bit unlucky?
I thought she was very unlucky, and I didn't quite see it the first time up, and I spoke to Sean Terry afterwards, and he said he got cleaned up on the inside where he had to go sideways. Well, the filly had to go sideways, and Guinness got there for nothing. So I think that cost the filly probably 2-3 lengths, which would have made a difference.
Here's a curve ball for you. If you had to match the Tokusan winner, Guinness, against the Alan Robertson winner, Alboran C, in a match race right now, as they stand, who would you go for?
I'd go for Alboran C.
You'd go for the filly. So you rate the filly slightly stronger. Well, of course, time will tell whether that's an accurate assessment. But there's many who believe that 2-year-old fillies are more precocious than colts at this stage. But I guess that's something that will be very difficult to prove. On to our third Grade 1 feature, the City of Pietermaritzburg SA Filly Sprint.
Take out Schiffer, balance of the field are sent on their journey, and Via Africa, she came out as smooth as silk by 2. Barricades right there down the centre inside. Tiger Quest and the Yellow Silks are now looking to pace it with Via Africa. Towards the inside, She's a Stun is about 2 lengths off them. Fly By Night. All a Secret, the grey, tracks through Tiger Quest. Jackadors and the Blue Silks, Miss October the inside. White Blinkers honouring to the stand side. Jet Supreme, Choir Maidens off the bridle. Then comes Jet Aglow. Further back in the running, Via Africa at the 500 metre marker. Tiger Quest is there in the Yellow Silks. Barricades between them. The grey, All a Secret towards the outside. 3-4 lengths to make up. Via Africa onto the 400 by a length. Tiger Quest on the outside. Fly By Night's running a big race towards the outside. Via Africa still the one to get with 200 metres to go, and Via Africa by 2.5. Fly By Night's trying to run on 150 to go, but Via Africa, she's clear by a length and a half. Fly By Night is coming home late. Fly By Night's coming home hard. Here's the post. I'm going to go with Via Africa by a nose, but let's hold on to our tickets there. It's very close because...
Heart-stopping finish to the City of Maritzburg SA Filly Sprint. In fact, it was in the balance, wasn't it, Andrew?
It was, it was a strange sort of a race, with 150 to go. She looked home and hosed, and just that last bit sort of found out, but hell, she went hard at the beginning.
She did go hard, but it was we had to wait for the slow motion replay, because although Sheldon did call Via Africa, he did caution that it was closer than we all believed it might be. And the crowd standing on the rail with their eyes fixed on the big screen watching the slow motion, and as we were getting closer to the post, Fly By Night got closer, but the post came just in time, and there was a tremendous roar for the filly, because she's immensely popular, and it would have been stunning from the wrong point of view to see her beaten by Fly By Night.
Yeah, she's got a hell of a following, Via Africa, and when I watch Duncan's string in the mornings, you can pick her out from miles away, not because she's got a big white blaze, it's just the way she carries herself. She's just got a presence about her.
What are the handicappers going to do with Fly By Night? And how do you explain the run? I mean, because she's rated a 93, she's been 100, that's been her highest rating ever. She's not lightly raced, you can't claim sudden improvement. She's 4 years old, rising 5. She's had 14 starts previously, this was her 15th start. She's only won 2 of them. The pair finished well clear of the balance of the field. Via Africa is rated, what is her current rating? 112. This filly's rated 93. There's a short head in it at the line. If you were the handicapper, the senior handicapper, here's another curveball for you. What would you be doing?
I wouldn't read too much into that, because I think maybe it was a bit of a flash in the pan, and I think Duncan and Kevin Shea had a plan in mind, and I think possibly Fly By Night stays a little bit further than 6 furlongs.
I think also it would be fair to say that that Via Africa was running on empty. She was running on pure guts and glory at the line, because I did speak to the owners afterwards, Mr. Hauptfleisch and company,
yes.
Andre, and he said, nah, I said she's definitely better over 1,000. He said, nah, she gets a 12. And I said, well, yes, she has won. She's never been beaten at Scottsville. She's 6 from 6 now at Scottsville. They do have plans to campaign her overseas now. That's the talk that I'm hearing. So we might well have seen the last of Via Africa in the country.
If it was my filly, I wouldn't take her overseas.
Neither would I.
No.
Neither would I. But if she's going to go, then she has to go with our blessing, and she has to go with our support, and she has to hopefully fly the flag for South Africa very high.
Well, you never know. I mean, we could be completely wrong if she does go overseas. The ground over in England probably might suit her, but I don't think the ground in Dubai would suit her.
Well, I must say I do agree with Andrew. I don't know what the handicappers are going to do with Fly By Night, getting within a short head of Via Africa, but I think that Andrew's reading of the race is correct. I think she went very hard. She went very aggressive. The testing 1,200 metres at Scottsville, and I think that Fly By Night obviously likes it a little bit further. She was running on very strongly, but perhaps it's just one of those things. You put it down to, well, that's racing. There's no logical explanation for her getting so close to Via Africa. The last of the jackpot of Grade 1 sprints, of course, the big one. The stake was increased to R1 million just 48 hours before the running of the race. The Grade 1 Golden Horse Sprint, a race that now belongs to the Charles Laird stable, he having won the last 3 runnings of this prestigious handicap.
All set. And they're racing away. Red Ray's one off the outside, the red cap. Let's see if Anton Marcus sticks to the station's extreme outside. At this stage, it looks that way. Happy Forever sticking with him towards the outside. And Regal Eagle, these 3 runners. Castlethorpe's also going to dart towards the outside. Over towards the inside, Norman's the blue cap. Just off them early on, Mr. Whatever. Contador's in touch with them, Barbosa. In behind these, Piano Man. Tevez is lagging off them. They're really going a good lick up front. Ready to go right now. White Line Fever, Lake Arthur, Chakeli a long way back, Snowden. Normans as they come to the 400-metre marker. Look towards the outside. Right there, Happy Forever. Red Ray now puts in his run. Regal Eagle to the outside. Normans with 300 metres to go. Happy Forever. Red Ray to the stand side. Barbosa's running a big race. Over towards the inside. Tevez tries to get going. Still Normans digs down deep over the last 150. Red Ray's on the outside. But Normans is clear by 2. And Normans. Red Ray's down the middle of the course. Normans looking to go all for broke here. Normans won it. Red Ray second, White Line Fever and Happy Forever.
Via Africa, of course, by VAR. Normans by VAR. Great to have Pippa Mickelborough at Scottsville to celebrate those 2 Grade 1 victories for the Stallion. VAR, of course, there's nothing to prove, with Variety Club now trotting around the world campaigning against the best and rising to scales that we hadn't seen before. Charlie Laird won the in-full flight handicap with this horse, which was specifically put there as a trial for the Golden Horse Sprint. He's now won the last 3 runnings, and a wonderful opportunity for Andile Mkhutla, who stepped into the irons in place of the indisposed Glenn Hatt.
It was a good payday too, with the stake increase. But people seem to forget that Charles Laird used to be the handicapper at Turfentine, so he didn't come down with the last shower of rain.
Were you surprised that Normans could go start to finish at Scottsville over 1,200 metres in this company?
I would have thought so. But I know Charles spoke to Dave Thistleton before the race, and he said Contador, he didn't think he could give him 6 kilos. And he was quite bullish with Normans.
Brilliant run from Red Ray. First runner since January, and as we said earlier in the show, beaten but not disgraced.
Beaten but not disgraced. And people blame the outside at Scottsville. I don't know. I mean, if you look at the 3 horses stayed on the outside, they finished 2nd, 4th and 5th. and Red Ray drifted in the inside. Maybe if he'd kept straight, maybe Anton panicked a bit, looking for the going. But they weren't far behind.
No, they weren't. And perhaps just the fact that he hadn't had a run, maybe he wasn't quite as sharp as Normans, who's got tremendous gate speed, as we've seen. But I was absolutely delighted for Andile.
Yes, I was too. I saw him in the parade ring. He was shivering and shaking. He was really nervous. And no, I'm glad he got it right this time. Because
we need to remind our viewers that Andile Mkhudle, as an apprentice, rode all 4 legs of the jackpot one afternoon at Scottsville. And then seemed to not lose his way. That would be unfair. But perhaps wasn't given the opportunities. There he showed. Stepped into the irons, late replacement for Glenat, put on the horse, start to finish victory. He's got all the talent in the world.
No, he's a talented rider, but I think you find it with a lot of apprentices and people and jocks that come out of the time, if they haven't got that, they need to push themselves onto people. You can't just stand back and say, well, I'm here. You've got to go to the trainer and say, no, please.
Yeah, fabulous touch, by the way, that took place in the pull-up area. Anton Marcus trotting over to Andile. It was out of the public eye, and I'm sorry we don't have it on camera, but he went over to Andile, having been beaten on Red Ray. And you know, Anton likes to win at all costs. Doesn't matter what. I know his stable won the race, but he wants to win at all costs. And he went over to Andile, shook his hand before leaving the centre stage to Andile, which I think, Anton, was a great, great touch. It's nice to see that there's still sportsmanship, and I'm sure Red Ray will live to fight another day. In fact, Andrew, likely favourite for the Mercury Sprint.
Mercury Sprint, isn't he nominated for the Post Merchants? I think he's in there too. I think he drew wide there though as well.
Okay, well, we look forward to seeing Red Ray in action again soon, because with the benefit of that run under the belt, I'm sure he'll be a tough nut to crack next time out. Well, as promised, we're about to join your regular hosts of the show, of course, Paul Lafferty and James Goodman. They are Down Under.
Hello, Graham, and welcome from sunny Australia. Here, Laff and I are sitting at the Magic Million sales. We've spent 2 days now looking at about 528 weanlings, and it's been a tremendous sale, Paul.
It's absolutely magnificent sale. I'm amazed at the amount of quality stock here. All the top stallions are represented. Major buyers are coming in. These weanlings are very popular.
Well, they spent 710,000 Australian dollars, and if you equate that to rands, that's 7 million rands on a weanling. We spent half of that on our top price yearling at the sales, and it was a bidding duel between the 2 big stud farms here in Australia. I think that's a record. They've got 3 days of brood mares, and then next week we've got the yearlings, which is big. And obviously, if there's anyone out there watching the show that would like to get over here, they can give Paul an email and he'll organise it.
Absolutely, we can get them. I do know for the mares that Stockman Extraordinaire, our friend John Costa's coming out, because there's going to be a lot of it with incredibly strong band of brood mares, especially with the dispersal sale.
Well, the pinhooking champion has been Mick Goss and the Summer Hill stud. They've been unbelievable buying weanlings, and he bought one for $85,000. He bought 2 lots for $85,000. One was an extremely nice $70,000 Lonhro, I think it was.
Yes.
And then Hassan Adams has been the big buyer of the sale. He's spent nearly $500,000 on 9 lots, and he bought a Lonhro today as well, which is
fantastic, beautiful, beautiful. Just looking across the lots that Hassan brought, he was out here with Mr. and Mrs. Snape, and he bought Fastnet Knots, Rock, Seabrings, Lonhros, New Approach, Manhattan Range, More Than Ready. He's really gone out and bought some beautiful horses.
Well, the great thing about this is that it really helps our industry, because we're going to get all this blood into South Africa. You know, he's got Gimme the Green Light standing at stud, which he's bought here before. He's been a fantastic asset to South African racing and breeding as Hassan Adams, and he's really done a great job. Kerry Jack bought a very nice horse, and Andy Williams has been very popular as well. He's bought 8 lots too, so the team's got in.
The team's got in. As you say, Mickey Goss out here with his team looking at horses doing their job. And of course, Kerry Jack, she bought a really, really nice South Chaparral filly that you were pretty keen on as well, James. Lovely filly.
Yeah, it's out of a sister to Delta Form. You'll remember Delta Form. He won the Summer Cup, I think, for Mike de Kock. So
that's right.
Beautiful filly. And there's some really, really good blood that's going to come back to us via this sale.
Yeah, just at glancing, as you know, James, you and I have managed to get a couple each, which is always a good sign. It's nice to see. So all in all, the South Africans have been very active. We know Michael Azzi is coming out as well. Him and his wife Sharon get out here to look at the yearlings. And there's still going to be a lot of interest this week. The yearlings look very strong. It's a very good, strong catalogue, and only enough it's affordable.
Well, there's certainly horses that you can buy in our price bracket. There have been sort of $10 and $15 and $20,000 buys here for South Africa. Andy, as I say, Andy Williams, he's always been a supporter of the sale, and he's bought some very, very nice horses in the past. Funny enough, he didn't buy the Rocket Man family. Yes, I saw the Rocket Man Giant. I thought he might have, but you will see when these horses get out and race one day that there's been a very strong connection to the South African horses, and I was pretty upset not to get Harry's son's half sister by Schwartz here. Went just out of my bracket. So you're in there trying, and the pedigrees are very strong, and it looks like, again, a wonderful sale at this time of the year. Well, they've been great hosts to us, and we really look forward to the next few days that we're going to spend here. And from me and Paul, we wish you a lot of good luck and good fortune. And Graham, thank you so much for doing the show for us.
Absolutely, and we'll be talking to you next Monday to give you another update.
Well, we look forward to hearing from Paul and James next week again. They in Australia for as long as 2 weeks. There's so many horses to be sold. Andrew, we're a resilient nation, aren't we? I mean, our currency is so weak. These guys have got to go out there and compete against the best for the best at huge odds. But somehow or another, they bring back these horses to South Africa, which of course ultimately improves our racing, but more importantly, that does wonders for our gene pool.
Definitely improves the gene pool, but I don't know, South African breeders and trainers just, I don't know where they find they've got balls as far as I'm concerned. You go out there and spend money like that. But we always seem to come good. We have produced some, they've produced some good horses here.
Well, such is the nature of the sport of horse racing. We want to succeed at the very highest level. And there's no end, as you say, Andrew, to what they'll throw at achieving that objective. Andrew, thanks very much for joining us today on Winning Ways.
It was a pleasure, Graham. Sorry, I'm a bit bunged up, so not at my best today.
Well, it's that time of the year. Lots of people walking around with flu. Well, as promised, we're going to play out under your call with James Goodman in discussion with Alan Greef. This interview was recorded at the 2014 National Yearling Sales. Thanks for joining me, Graham Hawkins. Enjoy your racing week. Enjoy the Daily News Race Day at Greyville on Saturday.
One of the pioneers in racing in the Eastern Cape, there in Port Elizabeth, has been the Greef family. Stanley and Lorraine Greef produced a magnificent trainer in their son Alan. We'll chat to him. Not often we get to chat to you PE guys, you know, but you've been known to race Durban a couple of times in your life.
Yeah, I've actually had quite a lot of success racing Durban, but you know, we've won the Gold Cup, I think the Lady Slipper and the Alan Robertson, so we've been lucky down there. But you need the right horse to travel.
PE's supposedly the backwater of South African racing, but you seem to be doing pretty well there.
I think that's becoming a myth nowadays, James. PE racing is really on the up, and you know, you need a half-decent horse to win there. The days of bringing horses down that run 6 or 7 lengths off them to PE and coming to win is you know, getting harder. I think you need a horse to win to be in PE nowadays.
Interesting your background, because your father and mother, Stanley and Lorraine, been in the business all your life. You were born and brought up in it.
Yes, no, you know, I was always groomed to be a trainer. There's nothing else I ever wanted to be in the world. Unfortunately, I had to go to school first, but I had to get that over and done with. And once I'd done that, my military service, I was always going to be a trainer. There's nothing else I ever wanted to be.
Your dad was a big influence on you.
Most definitely, you know, I grew up with one of the maestros as far as the trainers go, and he was a great man to learn from, and you know, I learned from the best. But besides my dad, I worked for Mr. Terence Millard, and from there I went to Tony. So I think, you know, I had a great grounding, and they worked me.
That family, the Millard family and the Creer family, always been great friends from even when your dad was a battling trainer in Cape Town, where he started.
Yeah, well, you know, my dad and Mr. Millard, they grew up together and were friends from a young age, and you know, that influence has just been through the family line.
I must say, and I'd like to be able to say it here, your dad was one of the kindest people I ever met, and he had a big influence in the beginning of my career. So it's a fantastic family, and we go back a long way.
Yeah, you know, my dad never had a bad word about anybody, and was always prepared to help anybody and give advice. So, and a lot of people took, you know, that chance of picking his brain and getting advice, and he was always helpful.
Rumour has it, Alan, that before you started training, and you know, when you were a little fitter than you are now, low aspirations on your fitness, you were quite a mean polo cross player.
Yes, James. When I was at school, I was, and in the army, I was a pretty decent polo cross player. Enjoyed myself, and really, it was an enjoyable time of my life.
Did you find that helped you as far as training horses is concerned?
Well, you know, I was brought up as a child in stable, and horsemanship was something that was drilled into me. And you know, playing polo cross, you had to know your schooling of horses and how to handle horse. And from there, you know, I was also not that I'm a great farrier, but that's my trade that I learnt in the army.
Very interesting working with horses' feet. I was in Dubai with Mike de Kock the other day. He's got them all barefoot.
Yeah, you know, I think when Mike came down to Port Elizabeth and spoke to us about our new polytrack, he did mention that, and you know, you got to take notice of certain things, and I think he's not far wrong in what he said.
Alan, since I've known you, you've grown up into a most successful trainer. Got a family?
Yeah, I've got 3 kids, you know, so, and a wife. My eldest daughter's 25, and my youngest son is now 16. So, you know, you've known us that long, and I've got a wife, Jennifer, who've been married a good couple of years, as you can realise. And you know, the daughter, the middle daughter, she's mad about horses as well.
So she's the one that's going to get into the training business and be part of the business?
She'd like to. I don't know. She's now at varsity, and hopefully she'll learn some things and maybe come to her senses.
Tell us a bit about Port Elizabeth training and life in Port Elizabeth, because, you know, for people that haven't been there, they're missing out on the experience. It's a really friendly place. People seem to get on pretty well there.
You know, it's a wonderful place to live, and yeah, it's a real good family atmosphere. Racing-wise, we all get on very well, and you know, everybody's happy to see the next guy win. But you know, we're hard-working chaps down there, all of us, I must say. And you know, I was always taught, you know, rather be a big fish in a small pond than a little fish in a big pond. But I wouldn't swap PE for the world. I've had offers to move around, and the lifestyle is absolutely wonderful, and I wouldn't change it. My father moved from Cape Town to PE, and you know, the quality of life is great.
You've forged some very, very good relationships with some farms, and notably, I'd say, Ascotstad.
Yeah, you know, the farms have also moved from generation to generation, and you follow, you know, the farms that you've been most successful with, and much like a family, the bloodlines in the horses, you get to know them, and you know the farms, and you get the honesty out of them.
Alan, the new polytrack's been put in PE, and there's an open forum. How are your feelings? How have you seen it? Because I know there was a lot of skepticism to start with.
James, I must admit, when the idea came up, I was very much against it. and it took me a while, but I did a lot of homework. And I'm a convert. I'll admit it, I wasn't very keen on it to start with, but I think they've done the right thing. The Polytrack has come to been our saving grace a couple of times already this season, where we've had a bit of rain and we've had to move. But I'm very happy with the Polytrack. I'm still learning about it every day, but I think it looks like it's the way forward. You know, we still got a long way to go and lots still to learn, but one step at a time. You know, when I thought about it and I asked some advice from some people, you know, you've got to embrace change, and that's what you've got to do. You've got to embrace change.
Interesting horses form. Do you find that they run to form on both surfaces, or are some horses very much better on the poly than the grass and vice versa?
As time is going on, I think I'm starting to pick out horses that do prefer the poly, but needless to say, there are horses that have won on both surfaces. I'm not shy of running them on either surface, but you know, there are one or two horses that maybe just weren't suited to the turf and have come to light on the Polytrack, and you know, maybe state of mind, I haven't brought them back to this, the turf track because they weren't doing very well. You know, maybe it was just the wrong timing, but I think you can get horses on both surfaces, but maybe as time goes on we will be able to divide them up.
Do you think the future is Port Elizabeth Racing, or do you think that with the cramping of the way things have gone, where you're down to one racetrack, and that it will end up being nowhere?
No, Port Elizabeth Racing is definitely on the up, and you know, it's become very competitive, and with the competition, like everything else, you've got to up your game. So PE is a very competitive racing centre. Our fields are a lot bigger than most centres around the country. I think we got the biggest average field size anywhere in the country. You know, so we're used to that sort of thing. But we race, and it's you ask the fellas that come down there from the Cape. You know, they got to bring decent horses down to take us on.
Yeah, Alan, there must be a couple in your yard that the viewers out there would like to hear about. What have you got that you fancy for the upcoming seasons, or horses that you think we should follow? Maybe something you bring to Durban?
Yeah, you know, I've got a young string, and my best horses are 3 and 4 at the moment, mostly 3-year-olds. Winter Fantasy is a filly that comes to mind. She's a really nice filly, and you know, she was one of our better 2-year-olds. And she's done well as well on the Polytrack. So she's a good filly as a 3-year-old. I've got some very nice 2-year-olds. You know, I think generally my young crop are my better horses.
So things for the Creefs still look like they're firing?
Yes, you know, you've got to work hard, and as long as you keep your head level, and you know, I've got a lot of people, although my dad's not around to keep me down to earth, there are a lot of other people that do keep me down to earth, and keep your head straight and on your shoulders, and you know, you can't be bigger than the game.
Always a pleasure to be able to chat to these guys from the nether regions in South African racing. We don't often get a chance to chat to them, but Alan Creef, been a great mate for many, many years, and certainly one of the best trainers ever to come out of the Eastern Cape. From me, James Goodman, and the Winning Ways team, have a great week's racing.